In the 1990s, Iceland was booming into modern times after centuries of isolation and foreign exploitation. And under the leadership of Prime Minister Davíð Oddsson, the country began experimenting with American-style capitalism. One of those experiments made a splash. An Icelandic company named Decoding Genetics announced a mega deal with Swiss drug giant Hoffmann La Roche. Together, they'd find breakthrough cures from the DNA of the ultimate test tube nation.
My wife puts the copy of the New Yorker in front of me, and there's an article about this genetics firm that has now a license from the Icelandic government. A license to take all Icelanders by presumed consent into this genetics database. And I thought this was just preposterous. Having been on the outside, looking back at Iceland, my home country, I thought, what is happening to my people? And I decided to make a documentary on my own about what was happening in Iceland. Initially, I planned to make a 30-minute little expose, kind of a half-hour news type of special that would be shown on Discovery Channel. Then a lot of things changed and unfolded, and it became like a longer-term project. In the end, it was a 10-year-long, you could call it a zigzag or process or journey, where I went back and forth from California to Iceland with my family, my young son, and kind of observed in a time-lapse manner what happened in Iceland over these 10 years leading to the collapse. My biggest criticism still of Icelanders is that they have adopted free market capitalism under the leadership of Davíð Oddsson in a way that's so non-critical. They never question this system. They just jumped in, and without questioning it at all.
This free market era launched a new and proud Iceland, often ranking as one of the wealthiest, happiest, and least corrupt nations in the world.
Luck is really smiling upon us, and it would be rude not to be happy. Washerwomen were driving to work in Toyota Land Cruisers because everybody could get a loan.
As a person coming from the outside and speaking now with an American accent to the Icelanders, they began to perceive me as an outsider. I was not an Icelander. And clearly it was obvious that I had a critical view of what was going on. And critical media at that point was kind of a novelty in Iceland, and people were not used to a critical, investigative kind of journalist asking you uncomfortable questions.
But in October of 2008, the party was over. Iceland was nearly bankrupt, and so was Decoding Genetics. And amidst the chaos, samples of DNA from 2/3 of Icelanders became the assets of an American corporation.
And what most notably happened to Iceland after it was in smoldering ruin and the government had taken over this debt from private banks and nationalized it and handed it over to the people, is that the people admirably put their feet down and said no. And so there was a national election, a referendum on whether we as a nation were going to take on this debt that was created by formerly privatized banks, private bankers. They said no. They just rejected this method and gave those assets back to the bank, who is now dealing with its creditors in Europe, and the nations made a statement. And it was very good emotionally for them to do that. And now they can say that they did not do as the rest of the world of socializing capitalistic failure and privatizing profits.